Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. He's had a busy morning, keeping an eye on Aaron Hernandez, and he joins us now. Recap the morning for those who were just tuning into the news, Mike.
Well, at about 8:45 a.m., Dan, it became obvious that police had shown up again at Aaron Hernandez's home in North Attleboro, Massachusetts, but this time they were there to arrest him after 5, 6, 7 visits over the past 8 days. They cuffed him and stuffed him, and he got no favors. He got no athlete treatment, celebrity treatment, and as you were saying earlier, it looks like they cuffed him shirtless and then put a T-shirt over his arms and his torso and put him in the cruiser and took him downtown.
Could he have turned himself in? Could he have avoided the perp walk?
It sounds like they didn't give him that option, and I know there had been a hope from Hernandez's camp that when the time came for him to be arrested, he had the opportunity to drive himself down and turn himself in. This wasn't a guy who was acting like someone who was trying to flee, and it's not like he could have fled anyway. He's under constant media surveillance. And this just tells me that the police are taking this very seriously. And, whether it's a charge of obstruction of justice and they're upset that he's not cooperating, or whether they're going to charge him with involvement in the murder and they are treating him as a guy who could possibly present a risk to their safety.
What would be the Patriots' reaction to this?
Well, they've got 4 weeks and 2 days to figure it out because that's when Hernandez is supposed to show up for training camp. They can't be happy about it. They turned him away from the facility last Thursday when he showed up. They didn't want the media stakeout. They don't want the distraction. They don't want the disruption. And they're going to study exactly what the police have to say about this. We'll find out later today what he's been charged with. And the NFL will have done its own investigation into the situation. And now the fact that he's a very important player to that team is going to possibly get him more consideration than if he were just a guy at the bottom of the roster. If he was a guy at the bottom of the roster, he'd probably already be cut by now. But there's a point where your hands are tied and you just can't keep a guy around under these circumstances.
Cutting him is not something that's a viable option right now for the Patriots?
Well, cutting him isn't, because if you cut him, then you have no chance of getting any of the money back that you gave him last year, $12 million signing bonus. But you can solve the problem of Hernandez showing up for work if the NFL looks at everything, conducts its investigation, and says, sorry, Aaron, you're indefinitely suspended until this is resolved. And that's exactly what happened 6 years ago to Mike Vick. Once he was indicted on dogfighting and gambling charges, he was just told by the NFL, don't show up, stay away. And then nature kind of took its own course because he eventually pleaded guilty and went to jail. With this, we still don't even know what he's facing from a charge standpoint. But with 4 weeks to go until training camp, I think the most likely outcome is the NFL and the Patriots agree that they're just going to tell Aaron Hernandez to stay away until this is all resolved.
Best guess here, and once again, just speculation on what you think he will be charged with.
Well, the reports that there was an arrest warrant drawn up indicated it would be for obstruction of justice. And so apparently there was an arrest warrant drawn up because he's been arrested. And the Massachusetts State Police, and I don't want to read too much into how something is worded on Twitter, but they say we're not releasing the charge against Hernandez until it's presented. So that implies one charge. And I don't have any reason to think it's anything other than obstruction of justice, at least for now.
Can the NFL suspend him if he's charged with the crime?
Well, they can, yeah, absolutely. And the NFL will have done its own investigation with its NFL security detail, which is made up of former law enforcement officials who know how to get to the bottom of things. And if Roger Goodell believes that, let's think about this big picture. Think about what guys get suspended for. Guys get suspended for smoking marijuana on their own time. If Roger Goodell believes that Aaron Hernandez is obstructing justice in a murder investigation, if he believes that that's what happened, if these reports are true, that he destroyed his cell phone, home surveillance system, et cetera, how can you allow this guy to show up for work? If you're going to suspend guys for smoking pot, how can you let a guy work who is not telling the police what he knows about a murder?
They went from the best tight end situation in the NFL to now the worst.
Well, they got Tim Tebow. No. I can't imagine that they'd make him into a full-time tight end. There's other guys out there, free agents, guys who are going to be cut. They could try to trade for somebody. They have to wait and see what happens, but they'll find people to catch passes from Tom Brady. I mean, I always say a great quarterback makes receivers look a lot better than they otherwise are. They'll find people to run the routes and catch the passes, and they'll look pretty good because Brady's the one throwing them.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, Dan. See you, buddy.
All right, Mike Florio, ProFootballTalk.com. The obstruction of justice, that was what has been widely speculated. But I think you got to be careful, once again, with speculation, because we thought he was being arrested last Thursday. They're gathering information. We'll continue. I didn't know if he could avoid being cuffed at his house and walking out. And if you're the NFL, they suspended Ben Roethlisberger. He was never charged with the crime. But guys get popped for smoking dope. I mean, you've had both ends of the spectrum here. And then you got Michael Vick. This might be closer to a Michael Vick situation as far as the severity of the charge or charges than Ben Roethlisberger or somebody else who got popped for smoking pot.